Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to another episode of Schweiger Live. And today we have a very special guest, Michael Lington, saxophonist. Those of you who know me know that, of course, when I had the opportunity to have him on, sax players always have a special place in my heart, as I'm one of them. And when Michael was willing to come on, I was beyond tickled pink. So Michael, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much for having me. I have such a special place in my heart for Napa Valley and, of course, great wine, particularly red wine. But so it's a real pleasure for me to be here.
Well, in our earlier chats, you were kind of describing what you liked. So those of you at home who have some Schweigers in your library, today we're going to open up the 2013 Montaire Cabernet along with our 2014 Malbec. And Michael has a couple of bottles of these as well. So we'll kind of be talking about them and tasting them together in a little bit. So if you haven't opened up at home yet, please feel free to go ahead. Meanwhile, Michael, would you be willing to play something, give our viewers a sample of your awesomeness?
Yeah, well, of course, I'm happy to play something. I was thinking about what to play. So what's good wine drinking music? And I think I came up with it. It actually comes, a song that comes from my Heat album that I never performed live until I started looking through my catalog and found this song that I kind of forgotten about. And it's becoming really special to me. I've been messing around with it here in my studio, and I want to do for you right now. It's called Angelina.
Nice. Thank you very much. That was awesome.
There you have it. A little Angelina.
Thank you. That was cool. That definitely, I'd definitely love to hear you play that live someday.
It's a pretty song. You know, it's funny. I've made 11 albums, and you kind of forget of some of those earlier songs just because they were never radio singles. So you never really put them in the live show because, you know, you have, what, in a live show, 60 minutes or you have 60 minutes or you have a 90-minute maybe, and you have to fit everything in. And so you just have to pick and choose. And this was just not one of them. But I think after this coronavirus, this quarantine thing, I might put it back in the show. I'll put it in the show.
Well, and it's tough in a show. I mean, I don't know how you balance it, but I'm guessing typically you're doing a lot more upbeat stuff, and maybe after every two or three upbeat, you can slow things down.
That's right.
With a prettier ballad like that.
Yeah, that's right. You know, and I think that you always think about the people come to see you. They want to hear what they've heard on the radio, so you kind of got to give it to them. This was not one of them for some reason. Did not end up on the radio, not as a single. But I have. It's fun playing it. So who knows?
Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah.
Or who knows? Maybe your 12th album can be a deep dive of stuff from the past. Give it a breath of fresh air.
Well, I tell you what, though, it's actually what's we talked about it a little bit before, Andy, and that was the fact that now all my shows has moved online for now. I mean, all artist shows has moved online for the ones that decide to do it. And as you know, I do a show on a platform called Stage It every week. And the way I've been approaching that show, obviously I can't do the same show every weekend since it's not in a different city, but it's global. So I do a different themed show every week. Last week was called Your Requests. So there was all requests from fans. And this was actually one of the requests from a fan that I guess got the album back in the day and said, I've never heard you play it live, so why don't you play it for us? And this coming, if it's a good time to talk about it, we got to get to the wine because I'm really excited about that. Yeah, but tomorrow, not tomorrow, this coming Sunday at 5 o'clock Pacific Daylight Time, I'm doing another show. And this one is called The Live Show, because before this whole stay at home, stay in shelter came into place, I went into to the studio with my live band, and we actually recorded the music part that I play along to. We recorded all of that in a recording session. So I have that play to. So it's going to be like being at a live show with different arrangement songs, you know, that was hits for me, but different arrangement, like the live, more up tempo. So this, I'm kind of excited. It's going to be a fun one because it's all basically, for me, it's going to feel like I'm back on stage with my band because it is them playing it. Like what I just played right now was basically the studio version of a song, you know, but this is all live and happening on stageit.com this Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time.
Cool. I look forward to that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, and I just reading up on, I'm assuming that was a Yamaha Alto.
Yep. That's right. Yamaha Alto. I've been a Yamaha artist for many years. Beautiful, beautiful horns. Love them.
Yes. My tenor and Barry are both Yamahas.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I read up on your thing too. You're a sax player.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And do you have a main horn, or do you usually play?
Primarily alto.
Yeah.
And
okay.
especially when I was in high school, I was focused. I actually was an outlier for sax players. I actually was trained more in the classical music world, and so I was competing for
on clarinet.
Yeah.
So we have that in common.
So I was competing against oboe players and clarinet players for scholarship money, and so you walk in doing a Jacques Bear piece on alto sax, and everybody's like, "That's not fair. You're not an oboe player." I'm like, "Yes, I'm not neurotic like you." And it was a lot of fun because I considered going to Berklee School of Music, but realized that, wait a minute, there's so many amazing, talented saxophone players out there in the world right now, and I probably stand out a little bit above a pile of mediocrity, but I don't know if I would have made it as a recording artist, whereas I did have the passion and the drive to go into winemaking. But I've never quit and keep collecting horns. And Paula, bless her heart, is so kind. She's occasionally I'll come home with a new catalog from Woodwind and Brasswind and go, oh, look at this beautiful new soprano. But I've had the same Yanagisawa since '89, and I could never play on another horn.
Yeah, those are great horns too. I used to play Yanagisawa as well on alto. I had that Silver Sonic, which was the solid silver, beautiful horns too.
Yeah, but my prized possession is my Selmer Mark VI alto that we found out in the early 90s. The guy who does all my repair work started cross-referencing serial numbers and found out that alto at one point belonged to Cannonball Adderley.
Really?
Yeah. So
what do you know what year it would be?
It's a 59, I believe.
Okay, so yeah. 59. So you were probably in what, the 70,000s on the serial number?
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Wow.
So
amazing.
When we had all the fires here in 2017, of course, Paula knew right away that before she even grabbed any clothes, she had to grab my alto.
Yeah.
And I actually, so when I pass, that horn's going to be donated to the Smithsonian to be there as Cannonball Adderley's horn.
Yeah.
And it was a little eerie when the Smithsonian's insurance company calls you up to say, is our property safe? Can we send somebody out to pick it up from you? I'm like, no, nobody's taking my horn from me.
Yeah. It's interesting. When was the last fires, those big fires? Was that 17 or was it 18?
In California, basically, yes.
Well, up in Napa. No, in Napa, but
Napa was 17.
It was 17. It's so interesting because I did a week or 5 days at Blue Note, and that Sunday I went home after doing my last 2 shows on the Saturday. That's when the fire started. I remember they started on a Sunday. Must have been somewhere in October or and I remember coming home and then all suddenly looking at the news and seeing wineries burned down. I was like, it just came from there. It was unbelievable, the devastation that caused. And but I cannot wait to get to these wines that we should probably get.
Yeah. Well, and so now, Michael, you also have your own wine program too, right?
I do. And it's a small winery in Paso Robles, California, called Solana Cellars that makes my wine. And we do I'll tell you about it very quickly. We titled each wine something musical. So we have a Viognier, and it's titled The Soloist. It's just one grape, the Viognier. And then we have a sort of our version of a Bordeaux blend, which is Malbec, Petit Syrah, Petit Verdot. We call it Trio for the 3 grapes. And then we have sort of our, the cream of the crop, if you will, which is the 2007 Cabernet Sauvignon. We call it the Maestro.
Nice.
And so it's a little side project that my winemaker Tom Bear and I we started many years ago, and it's been a lot of fun to be involved in it. Again, what's been cool about being involved with wine myself is to get the knowledge, but also getting to meet some people in the industry, and those things kind of really only happen when you're a part of an industry, so it's been really a lot of fun.
It is, and it's such a fun industry where it's not really competitive, it's more collaborative. Winemaker to winemaker, if somebody needs something, we can help each other out. There's never oh no, you don't work for my company.
No, exactly. I see it both in Paso, I see it up in Napa. As I mentioned, I go up there a lot, and it's just all friendship. People work together. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's tuck into that 2013 Montaire.
Let's do it.
So this is the first vintages of Cabernet that I made for the family. My dad made it very clear that, look, I don't know winemaking. Just know I grow great grapes. So none of that fancy blending you do at other wineries, just 100% Cabernet Sauvignon, 100% Merlot.
Are we starting? Are
And
we starting with the Cabernet?
yeah, let's start with the Cabernet.
Okay, sure. By the way,
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful bottle. I love this etched, the Edge logo and the whole thing. It's just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you. It's one of those things that, you know, it helps set it apart, but also doing paper labels for very small production runs are cost prohibitive. So you can just class it up and combination of silk screening and, okay, so a fun story, it feels etched, but it isn't. That's actually
Are you
printed.
serious? Well, that's amazing because it feels like it's all etched in the bottle here. Wow. And the back too.
But that's actually to get that optical or physical illusion. It's actually an ink that they were using for vodkas in Eastern Europe for raves. It's an ink that's designed to. It's an ink that's designed to glow in the dark. Oh, and I asked them. I said, "What if you do line art with it?" And they said, "Well, it probably wouldn't glow as much, but it might look etched." Yeah. Well, let's try it. So we did.
That's exactly what I thought. I mean, there you go.
But the great thing is it gives it that etched look. Yeah. But when we're off the air, turn off the lights, and the vineyard has a faint green glow to it and the pitch dark.
Oh, interesting. I didn't realize that. That's very cool. Well, to me, when you see a bottle like that, it just, to me, it looks elegant, classic. And I think when I first received the wines and looked at that, and I just like, well, I know I'm going to enjoy this. That's what just comes to mind instantly. You know, I mean, this is before trying it, but it is just an elegant way to present a bottle. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Well, and that's part of the idea behind this was our first vintages, the Cabernets were 100% Cabernet. And over the years, I started to add a little bit more nuance and layering. So today, our flagship Cabernet, some vintages, like the current release 2014 Cabernet is 100% Cabernet. Right. But some vintages, I take liberties and we'll put in 3% Merlot, 2% Malbec, just to round out and bring more elegance and layering to this show. Yeah. But I mean,
the color on this thing is just, I mean, it's so dark and rich. It's that I happen to love that very much. For some reason, do you make Pinots? Do you make Pinot Noir?
Actually, we just started.
Okay. You know, it's a very, for me, I'm sure I'm getting a lot of trouble here because there are some great Pinots, but it leaves for me wanting a little more. Does that make sense? Can I say that without getting in too much trouble? I mean, I see a rich Cabernet like this, and I know Pinot can be great as a starter for a dinner or, you know, just a social gathering, if you will. But I love that full-bodied, you know, and the deep, rich color. That's just me.
Yeah, well, no, our Pinot project, we grow a small amount of Chardonnay here, and I love our Chardonnay, but it was almost like we were making too much Chardonnay. So I wanted to do something else with some of the land, and we had a site that was a little too cool for Chardonnay. And so we decided, hey, you know what? Why don't we try Pinot? Now, nobody else is doing it. Springmont District is primarily Cabernet country.
Right.
So it kind of throws people for a loop when they hear that I am growing Pinot. I haven't released one yet. Okay. I am pretty sure our 2019 vintage I will bottle next year in 2020. Okay.
Well, maybe I'll change my mind there, Andy. Let's see, huh?
Well, you know what? When this is all lifted, we'll get together, and they're not necessarily Napa, but I'll share a couple Pinots with you that'll change your mind.
Okay. I will go with that.
Yeah. So the 2013 Montaire. This is a throwback to those days when we only did 100% Cabernet. Yeah. And I don't do any reserve bottlings because I find the concept of reserve abhorrent. There is no legal definition of what reserve is in the United States. And too often, wineries will make a certain amount of reserve and sacrifice the quality of the remaining 90% of what they do.
Yeah.
So everything I do is a reserve.
Right.
So I only do 25 to 50 cases of these single vineyards. So rather than it being a reserve, this is a single vineyard selection. So Montaire actually is a vineyard block that grows between our tasting room where I'm standing right now and my parents' home.
Okay.
And it's a very unique shallow bowl at the very top of the mountain. We're 2,000 feet above the Napa Valley.
Okay.
And we're uniquely situated in essentially a bowl at the very peak of the mountain.
Okay. Very cool.
So it's one of two single vineyard designates we do.
So is this 100% Cabernet, or did you have a little bit of other things in there, you said?
No, so this is 100%.
Okay, this is 100%. Got it.
It really has that mountain.
Yeah.
Rich blackberry, currant, a little undertone of like forest floor without being moldy. It's more like Tuolumne Meadows after a rainstorm.
Yeah. Yeah, I know I'm going to like this.
The other thing, Michael, is that mountain fruit can be very tannic and the wines can get very grippy.
Yeah.
So I'm barrel aging for 3 years. So
Right.
most wineries are getting ready to release their 2017 Cabernets.
Yeah.
I haven't even bottled mine yet.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's
And that's
definitely
not-
it's definitely dry. It's higher in the tannin than say my Cabernet down from Paso. But I see with food. I think I actually prefer a drier red when I have it with a meal. I don't want any sort of hints of sweetness or anything like that. I wanted more dry. And this is a very classic sort of Napa Valley. Little on the tannic side, but really, really good. And the color is just fantastic. Yeah.
So, and before I forget, especially for your fans who've never had Schweiger wines before, if they're interested in trying some of our wines, because we are so small, it's hard to secure good distribution around the country. So the best way to get our wines is to order directly. So we have a coupon code, and the coupon is your initials, ML, capital M, capital L.
Oh, cool. Okay, well, thank you.
And they'll get $10 flat rate shipping on 6 bottles or more anywhere in the country.
Do they need to be a member of the wine club, or can they just order on your website?
Just ordering on our website.
Okay.
They don't have to be a club member, and that's it's $10 flat rate shipping anywhere except Alaska, Hawaii, or Utah. Otherwise, we ship to everywhere in the country. Okay.
Well, that's, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of convenience in that. That's what's happening with my wines too, as well. It's all shipping. It's all online. But I don't have a nice fancy tasting room like you, Andy. But thank you very much for offering that to my fans. I will make sure to pass that on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, no, and it's like fancy tasting room, but it's kind of weird because in tasting rooms, I've never seen the valley this empty before.
Yeah, yeah. It's like that everywhere. I have some friends that, for example, lives in Vegas right now, and Vegas is probably one of the busiest places in the world, and it is like just everybody just went, got up and left. It's a ghost town, and it's in many places like that. It's kind of crazy. It's really wild. I can tell you that I did not ever imagine in my lifetime that I was going to see anything like this, But
Yeah.
but Andy, there's a silver lining in this, to me, and that is, it's given us all maybe a little bit of time to refocus on what our own values are, what's really important to us, and for me, spending more time with my family. I just became a dad 2 months ago. And
congratulations.
Thank you very much. And to have that time with him where I would have been gone pretty much every weekend. There was a couple of trips to Europe. Now, I will later on, but just to have those memories that I would have not had, I've been able to spend so much time with, but also being online like we are right now, the engagement with our audience and fans has been absolutely wonderful, and everybody's sort of coming together, and it's been kind of a beautiful thing to feel that sense of community, where usually I would show up at a show and I'd do my show and then kind of leave, and then that was that until the next show. But now I almost felt like a strong bond with my audience, and this
Oh, yeah.
especially on my staged show where they can comment and they email me and they can talk. There's just it's been a wonderful experience, that part. So to me, there is a silver lining. Now we just need to get business back to where it was.
Yes. I can only imagine that first live show that you get to do when this is lifted.
Yeah.
You're not going to want to get off stage at the end of the gig. The audience is going to want you to stop. It's going to be 3, 4, 5 encores.
It's gonna be an all-nighter.
Yeah. I've been thinking about the same thing, because these last few months, normally I'm traveling half the time, hosting wine dinners and going into wine shops and restaurants and meeting chefs and buyers, and it gets old after a while, but I can't wait to get back out there and shake hands and hug people and actually share our story.
Yeah, well, we need that. We're human beings. We need interaction. This is okay, for a little bit, but we need that contact. That's what we are as humans. We need to be able to shake hands. We need to be able to have a conversation face to face and experience things together like that. You must.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's one thing for me. Live performances is not just hearing the artist, but it's sharing it with people you love.
It's the experience. It's the full experience. Absolutely.
And as a performer, you get the feedback. You get to feed off their energy, their enthusiasm for your art.
Yeah, and that's right. And I don't have that being in my home studio. It's just me, but the fact that people can message me, there's a very interesting thing. Where I do my shows on stageit.com, it's a different format than Facebook, where people just kind of tune in and tune out and come in the middle of a performance and then go to another performance. You actually buy a ticket. Now, my tickets are pay whatever you want, but you actually got to buy a ticket. So I feel that engagement very strongly from the people tuning in. They bought a ticket. They want to see a show. Now they're half an hour with a few encores, but I feel that, and the fact that they can message me during the performance and I can see it on the right side of my screen, I feel connected to them. Not the same way as being in a venue on stage and having feel their energy. Of course not. But this is at least we got this, and that's important. Very, very important to me.
When I started doing these virtual tastings 6 weeks ago, it was just myself talking at my phone. Yeah. And after 10 minutes, I was like, okay, I've run out of stuff to say, and I couldn't see the comments coming in. So the next step was.
I thank you for doing these things, because, I'm sure the people that you're fans of your wine and your winery are feeling the same way we are, and also feel a little lost and pinned up at home. So the fact that they can come here and do this and be a part of a conversation and in an experience is really kudos to you for putting this together. So thank you very much.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. And it's also fun just to, when I started getting responses from artists who I really respect, it's like, I was floored that, oh, wow, they're on board.
Yeah, we should mention our mutual friend David Britz, who introduced us. David used to be my manager many years ago, and we have remained friends ever since. And as a matter of fact, a few of us. Right now it's 4 of us. We used to get together every month for a dinner and a wine dinner at a restaurant, different restaurant, trying different foods, and everybody would bring a bottle of wine or 2. Sometimes it was way too much wine, but We haven't been able to have that. We're considering doing a virtual one. So it's basically people in the industry. David as a manager. There's one president of a record label. There's another manager. There's me as an artist. And it was just the four of us. We call our little South Bay Club, which is South Bay, California, which is the beach cities down here, Hermosa, Manhattan Beach. Yeah. And we haven't been able to do that. But it was very, I've got to give thanks to David Bridge for bringing us together.
Yeah, well, David has been so generous doing that with us. And the what you were talking about doing, maybe we should try and get you looped in. David and Segi and Dave Roberts, two of the guys from Straight No Chaser. I've done a few of these shows with them, and they're doing one that they're calling it Dealer's Choice, where everybody picks a bottle of wine.
Yep.
And so they want me to come on and do one. So maybe you and I can both go on at the same time.
Yeah.
We'll have it be a bunch of us, and we'll go around and what did you pick and what do you think about it?
I'm totally game for that. Yes.
So, and I'm intentionally going to pick not one of my own wines because, there's so many amazing fun wines to try, not only here in Napa, but from around the world.
Yeah. There really is. I mean, there's, I'm not very knowledgeable on French wines. And so sometimes we'll go to dinner and somebody will bring a bottle of French wine or even South American wine. I mean, there's this great wines from all over the world. And I love being introduced to things that I would have never normally been exposed to and just try new things. Absolutely. This is a great thing.
I get some of my barrels from a cooper in Italy, and they're in the Piemonte region.
Wow.
And I have a good friend who has actually written a book about the Piemonte region, and she leads tours to the Piemonte region every year.
Right.
Several times a year. And I was scheduled to co-host one with her. Normally, she brings a sommelier along as a co-host. And after my wife and family and I toured Italy last year, she said, it'd be such an interesting paradigm shift to have a New World winemaker tour Italy. So it was going to be all wine club members of Schweiger Vineyards going to Italy to try different Italian wines. So we've had to reschedule that to June of 2021.
Yeah.
But it's such a beautiful part of Italy, and it's a region that a lot of Americans have not discovered yet.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, talking about different places in the world here. So, I'm originally from Copenhagen, Denmark. Mm-hmm. And I got to say, Schweiger, you German?
Austrian.
Okay. So, how did you get involved in wine? Through the family, or are you first generation, or tell me?
So the kind of the nutshell is that my dad was working. Okay, I'll go even back further. My grandfather had an argument with his sisters. My great-grandfather had property in the Santa Cruz Mountains. Okay. And so my grandfather walked away from that. Otherwise, who knows, I could be a Santa Cruz mountain winemaker.
Right.
But my grandfather wanted to find some property, and my dad was working for Cal Fire at the time and was transporting some engines from Sonoma County to Napa County and saw this for sale sign out on some forested land. And long story short, he could not afford the $275 an acre. Handshake agreement, the owner sold it to him for $250 an acre the following year.
Wow.
With no money down. Wow. So my family had this 54-acre parcel, completely forested. Dad had his own construction company doing custom homes in the 70s. When the recession hit, interest rates shot over 20%. Not a good time to be running two construction projects.
That's right.
Somehow convinced my mom that a small vineyard, 2 or 3 acres until the next job comes along, could be a fun hobby. 35 acres later, the next job came along.
Right. Wow.
So all through the 80s, mom and dad were growing grapes for other wineries. So I grew up cutting down trees, planting grapevines, running drip hose, assembling trellis systems.
Yeah.
And eventually got a fake ID so I could appear to be 18 so I could work as a cellar rat. And worked my way up as a cellar rat, went off to Davis to study winemaking and worked for a number of wineries. It was in 94, I was working full-time in Chateau St. Jean when my parents pulled a winery use permit, called me up and said, don't quit your day job because we can't afford to pay you anything. But if you want to know what it's like to be an entrepreneur, we need to make wine this year and we don't know how. So welcome aboard.
Wow.
So 94, I kept a full-time job with other wineries up until right before the 99 harvest.
Right.
And 94 through 99 would do all the winemaking cellar work here, evenings and weekends. And
so are you the winemaker for Schweiger?
I'm the winemaker.
Wonderful.
Since year one.
I love it.
And Dad and I do all the vineyard management together. He is still very active and involved. And so actually I see him out in the vineyard right now.
I bet we have a lot of mutual friends. One of my very, very dear friends up in Napa is Jeff and Valerie Gorgiulo.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. They're probably one of my closest friends up there. And through them also, I've been introduced to so many other wineries and their friends up there. And what a beautiful community you have up in Napa Valley, all over there. It really is such a pleasure to visit. And I tell people about it every time. I mean, most people have been to Napa. A lot of people don't know about Paso Robles, believe it or not. But I always encourage people to go to Napa if they haven't been, and just go winery hopping and see how how wonderful it is up there. The way and the way of life, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Get off the beaten path. Yeah, I've played in, Jeff has a band called the Silverado Pickups with Duncan and a few.
Of course.
And so I played a few gigs with them on occasion, but it's hard to, they're a guitar-driven rock band and they don't necessarily know what to do with the sax. So when they want to do some R&B.
I've been on the receiving end of that, Andy.
Yeah. when they want to pull out something R&B, I can pull up the Barry sax and
Well, Dave Duncan liked to sing that one Stone song where there is a sax solo, I think, in it. But anyway, but I every year I can. I was there last year. It was once in a great while. I'll miss a year, but I'll do the sessions up there that they do. What is it? First week of October.
Yes, they've invited me to that a number of times. The problem is that's always the middle of harvest.
Well, it's pretty much right in harvest. Yeah. You should really. We'll see if it happens this year because of what's going on. But I highly encourage you to go there. It is a beautiful day at their winery. Music and the artists they bring in. I mean, again, I've met some musicians and that has become some of my dearest friends from whole other genres. Jeff is very involved with Nashville artists and singer-songwriters and a couple of country artists, Billy Dean and James has become some of my best friends, but through the sessions and through Gargiulo. Yeah.
We did Auction Napa Valley one year, and Billy Dean, Dean was there, and Anna Wilson and Monty Paul.
Of course, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And
actually,
also,
Anna and Monty were going to do one of these tastings, but they're quarantined in Utah right now, so I can't get wine to them.
Well, they just moved. They now live in Florida now.
Right, but they're in their Utah home right now.
Oh, yeah. You know more than I do. Yeah. Okay, I see. Okay, yeah.
Yes, but once they get to Florida, we're going to do one of these shows together.
Yeah, they're wonderful too. Yeah.
Yeah. Should we get this Malbec?
Yes, let's give it a shot.
Yeah. So this is actually 100% Malbec, and I planted the Malbec along the way, cutting my teeth in the industry. I got to work for Joseph Phelps, Chateau St. Jean, Kane, where they're all known for doing amazing Bordeaux blends. So after making wine for Mom and Dad for over 6 years, I really missed creating blends. Right. So we eventually pulled out some of our Merlot acreage to plant Malbec and Cabernet Franc.
Nice.
And it was starting with the 09 vintage. I realized that these varietals are coming into their own. So I do this with the red label. Most of our labels are more cream colored. And
Yeah.
I do the red label to signify that this is something exclusive to wine club members.
Yeah. Well, it is.
So,
I love the gold and the red together. As a matter of fact, my Maestro has the same kind of embossment, gold and red. Is this to me? And you have do you have a crest on there? Is that
yes,
is that a family crest?
a family crest since 1995.
That's funny because I have a crest in my bottle too, and people think it's my family crest. It is completely made up. But
Yeah.
as a matter of fact, there's two saxophones crossing on top of it, but they just think it's they're leaves. It's but I
I'll have
love
to look that up. That sounds really cool.
Well,
Yeah, so starting with '09, I started doing Malbec and Cabernet Franc as their own varietals, and often these wines would only be a 100 to 200 case production, sometimes a little bit more. But typically, wine club members get a bottle in their shipment, and then it's sold out.
now would you use Malbec for blending before, or you
Yes,
just didn't have it at all, or?
I didn't have it before. I didn't have it before 2000, and I planted it to create a Bordeaux blend that we call Dedication.
Nice.
And so Malbec
And
was
what else did
originally
you? What was that? Cabernet, Malbec, and then Cab Franc, or what was that?
Cabernet, Merlot, Cab Franc, and Malbec.
Got it.
I don't do any Petit Verdot because why would you have Petit Verdot? Color, more tannin, more flavor. Up in the mountains, the amplifier's turned up to 11. We don't need Petit Verdot up here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, a lot of times they use that just for color and for it's usually a very small amount. But yeah, I understand that.
The fun thing about Malbec for me is, and it starts out in the vineyard, and it starts as that fruit is coming into ripeness. And the first time I ever tasted one of my own Malbec berries, the berries are so much larger than the other Bordelais varietals. Our Cabernet is sometimes as small as frozen peas. Our Merlot is just a little bit larger. The Malbec are table grape sized, but you bite into it, and the middle is acid green. I mean, it is just bright, vibrant neon green.
Right.
And it has this mouth-watering acidity that I've never been able to describe until it hit me one day, is that Wrigley's Juicy Fruit Chewing Gum. Mm-hmm. What flavor is Wrigley's Juicy Fruit Chewing Gum? It isn't. It's just this mouth-watering. It's this mouth-watering, fruity acidity. And Malbec, as a grape, is full of that. And I think it really shows in a varietal wine where you get this punch of blueberry, boysenberry, blackberry. Right. It's so different from Cabernet. And Malbec, I think well-grown Napa, most people when they think Malbec think of Argentina. And
it's an Argentina grape originally, if I'm correct.
French. Right? Originally French. Yes.
Oh, interesting.
It's one of the 5 classic Bordelais.
I did not know that.
But it became very prolific in Argentina.
Right.
So
because it was probably it was fantastic to grow. They figured out that it was perfect to grow it there, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what most people, when they think Malbec, think Argentina or Chile, because their climate does such an amazing job with it.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that. Yeah. So.
Yeah. But it's so different when grown in Napa. It's much more elegant. We were actually watching, I really enjoy cooking, and I only started cooking when I discovered Alton Brown over 20 years ago. Right. And so I love watching his shows, and he just revamped one of his early steak episodes. And just last night he was doing sirloin steak where he was searing it. It's like, wow, a seared, crisp sirloin. Yeah. With Malbec.
I have a feeling, Andy, when we're able to travel again and actually get together, I think we need to do an in-person hang. Maybe it's a little bit of a cook-off with, we bring some different wines, both of us, and then we pull out those saxes and do a little jam. I have a feeling it might have to come to that.
I'm open. I'm actually my friend Cecil is I keep missing my opportunity, but he's going to help me. I don't have much of an in-home studio right now, and I don't want to play on the internet until I've got a good mic. Thank you, by the way, for that suggestion.
Yeah, I hope it's a wonderful, yeah, we could talk more about it too, but get yourself a little set up, and then you'll be ready to go. It'll be great.
Yeah, so Cecil is going to help me talk me through getting a mixing board set up and get everything fed in the computer, so I've got a live feed going in as opposed to just playing over an iPhone microphone.
Right, and which is what I'm doing here. It's just that Zoom is not necessarily made for music. It's more of a conference for voices. But if you want to do your Facebook things or Instagram stuff, it'll be perfect for you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll look forward to that. Well, hey, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but would you be willing to play one more song for our viewers?
Of course. Well, Andy, thank you so much for having me on here, and thanks for the delicious wines. I am going to cook a little bit tonight here for my lovely fiancée, her daughter, which is now my daughter, and then our son, who is well, I'm not cooking for him; he's just drinking milk. But we will enjoy the rest of these wines, or at least one of them tonight. So thank you very much for the beautiful wine and for having me on here. Really, and I look forward to meeting you in person. And as we talked about, we got to do something next time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hopefully sooner than later.
That's right. Well, cheers.
Cheers.
So I'm going to do a little song that actually kind of got it started for me. It was my first instrumental single. I had a single before that, which was a duet with Bobby Caldwell. It's a vocal sax duet off my first album. But this song I'm going to do for you right now is off my second album, Vivid. And it was my first #1 Billboard hit, instrumental hit. And wrote that with a good buddy of mine. It's called Twice in a Lifetime. Thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael. Cheers.